Hey now, welcome to the Dirty Side of the Track, America's leading Formula One podcast. That's Rob, I'm Brian. It is an off week in the interminable break between Spa and whatever was before this. Silverstone? I can't even remember. It's been months.
It's been 84 years.
Anyway, welcome everybody. Rob, how are you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm in that humdrum of no races, but at least we get to do a race preview this week.
Yes!
Yes, because Spa is just around the corner. So, if you are new to the dirty side of the track, welcome. We will do our usual format of hitting the news and social and see what caught our eye this week. Brian going down the rabbit hole as he always does in the video vault to see what videos you should check out. We have to make our casino game entries for
Yes.
Spa and Hungary, which again, for anybody who doesn't know, that's the season-long battle of Brian versus Rob to see who can come out on top. And we have some kind of casino-themed games we're playing at every race. So we're going to make those picks. Apparently, we're not doing a fantasy update because Brian's too sad. And then we'll do a preview of Spa.
Yeah, Michael and all of the fantasy crew. We do have some of the best fantasy players in the world in the Dirty Side League. We'll get to it. We'll address a little bit of what happened, but I'm so sad. Just we won't go into depth this week. But yeah, let's hit the
Uh,
news, man.
let's hit the news. And speaking of sad, we do have to start on a
Oh boy.
somber note,
Yeah.
which is this week has seen the anniversary of the passing of Jules Bianchi. So, July 17th, 2014, Japanese Grand Prix. Won't go into the details of it. It wasn't great. And the accident that eventually took his life was essentially the reason behind the Halo being invented. So, a good thing came out of a bad situation. And thankfully, 2014 now, so 11 years ago, thankfully remains the latest F1 fatality. Not the latest fatality across all motorsport, but
Right.
at least we're seeing this happen less and less in the world of F1.
It agreed that it's incredibly sad to think back to losing Jules, the Halo, and also a much more stringent like requirement of when they put recovery vehicles on track as well.
True.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
just making sure that there aren't other variables introduced onto a track with cars on track, even under safety cars and so forth. So it's not perfect, but it's better. And obviously, terrible loss is you mentioned the last F1 driver to pass in a crash. However, sadly, we've lost people in F2 since. Most recent, obviously, was Antoine Hubert that I can think of in 2019, who also, like Jules, very close connection to Charles Leclerc. So for anyone who knows Charles's story and his family story, there's the amount of sadness that you may expect in any person's life, and for a young person, it's a lot. But then to have his godfather was Jules Bianchi, to have his godfather pass away as he's a young man with his own driving aspirations, and then to have his friend pass away hours before his inaugural F1 win at the same track in the F2 race. That was Antoine. Just horrible. So I
Yeah.
love seeing Charles and the success he has now, and it's another reason why I'm such a big Charles fan is the adversity that he's overcome is mind-boggling when you think about it.
Yeah, and it made me think sometimes you take for granted when you're two old bozos like us and you kind of remember all these things, even if you don't remember them in the right order or the right time that they happened anymore. um, when people were reacting, was it Japan when the recovery vehicle came out
Mm-hmm.
on track and we saw kind of them having close calls throughout the
Yes.
spray? There's a lot of people that react online and go, "What's the big deal?" They're slowing down. It's like, well, and you've got to remember that some of those folk are probably quite new to the sport, and I think of the Bianchi thing as not being that long ago. It's over a decade ago now.
Yeah.
So there are some folk that don't really understand kind of why some people look at that situation and go, "Oh," and it just brings them out in kind of flashback syndrome because it was awful, absolutely awful.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's move on. Keeping you were talking about Charles, though, let's keep the Ferrari theme going. Um, Ferrari had some allocated filming day work at Mugello this week. Each team gets allocated a certain amount. Apparently, I think it's measured. Well, judging by the story I found, it must be judged in distance because they said they're making use of their 200 kilometers. So, I guess that's the maximum you're allowed to use on a filming day. I didn't realize you were allowed to try new parts out during filming. So they've done this 200 kilometers worth of running at Mugello, and they're running the new rear suspension, which they're hoping that when they combine that with the floor tweaks they brought in Silverstone, it's going to kind of, catapult them forward for Spa and beyond. So I, I'd love to see a Ferrari win this year. I know we had the sprint race win, but I'd like to see a proper Grand Prix win with a prancing horse prancing at the top of the podium. I don't care if
Agreed.
it's Charles or Lewis, to be honest. Just give me either of them.
I agree. I agree with you. I also like the fact that it's measured in kilometers because that means Aston Martin's day is much longer because it takes Lance much longer to go the distance. So his day is a longer testing day in terms of time for him to reach the distance. That joke didn't land. That's all right. We're going to move on. Just pretend it did. Cadillac. Driver updates. Man, this last week we saw an awful lot of buzz, especially early in the week, about certain things happening. But Rob, I think it's fair we hop into the rumor mill, the chopper above the rumor mill.
I think we do need to report directly from above the rumour mill in the aforementioned chopper. Oh, yes. Here we are. Through the wind on my face.
So the first big part, right, that was really bouncing around all over the place to start the week was Checo. Checo. We've heard this before. We talked last week or 2 weeks ago about Checo saying Red Bull was sorry, and they're definitely not. 2 weeks ago we said that, and then Horner was out. So maybe Horner was sorry. Who knows? And then Checo is going to be announced before the summer break as a Cadillac driver. Now that seems to have gathered a lot of momentum with people you kind of believe as well.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
I mean,
yeah.
we tried to pry as much as we could out from good old Pit Lane Paul, both when we recorded the episode with him and then afterwards when we were off air, we tried to pry as much as we could, and he's a professional, remaining tight-lipped. He kind of admitted there's a whole bunch, all the drivers that are kind of being put out there as in contention for a seat are, yeah, in contention for a seat, because guess what? Why wouldn't they be? We've also then had, oh, well, that'll be Perez then, and they're not going to bring another experienced driver in because Pato O'Ward is going to come across from IndyCar and he's the other driver. Oh, no. And then the next day, no, sorry, it's Mick Schumacher. Mick Schumacher's definitely the other driver. And then it's Valtteri's definitely the other driver. At this rate, Brian is going to be the other driver if it keeps going like this because literally everyone just seems to be getting linked with this seat at the moment. Apart from one categoric no, and then because of this, it probably will be him, is that Cadillac have actually distanced themselves from Danny Rick. So they were asked about Danny Rick, and Graham Loudon came out and said, yeah, I think he's publicly said that he's not interested in Formula One. And when he was being interviewed, they kind of followed up with a further question and said, well, but would you try to change the Australian's mind? And I love this as an answer. This answer, would you try to change his mind to come back to F1? And he responded, that's not my job. If I need to convince someone, then that's the wrong person. You never need to convince a Formula One driver to jump in a car. Yes. So allegedly, the door is now fully closed on Danny Rick.
Yeah, apparently. Honestly, I think it should have been closed before his last stint. Just didn't seem like he had it anymore for a personality, a talent. I think some of that's in the past for him at this point. By the way, Graham Loudon, the TP for Cadillac, was also the Marussia CEO in 2014 when Jules passed. It's just a small world. Like it is, F1 is a small community. Everybody knows everybody, and everybody knows Paul.
And exactly, because everybody knows everybody, everybody's talking to everybody, everybody's being seen talking to everybody, and therefore the journalists and content creators and everybody are just having a field day, just pulling random names out of a bag and claiming them to be the second driver at this
Apparently.
point. So
what we got to do is make sure that nobody goes to a Coldplay concert with their side piece, because then everybody knows everybody and everyone will see them on the screen. That is the greatest story. That is such a good story.
It was. Do you know what? I know hindsight is a wonderful thing. If they hadn't had
reacted?
The reaction they had,
correct.
If the dude hadn't just bailed and dived to the floor and probably broken his face on the floor, he went down so fast, and she hadn't to turn around and tried to hide her head in the hands, it stood there. That would have been on like Kiss Cam for what?
4 seconds.
Next.
Right. And it never leaves
down,
the stadium. No one sees that footage outside the stadium, and no one in the stadium probably knows who they are, so they just move on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway.
Wow. If you don't know what we're talking about, just Google Coldplay Gillette Stadium Kiss Cam and all will become clear. It's not Formula One related, so we won't be putting it in the video. That's to say that.
Do we need to keep the chopper going for this one?
Yeah, we can keep the chopper up in the air if we've still got fuel.
A little bit less. We can't afford too much.
So, Christian Horner, we kind of dedicated quite a lot at the beginning of last week's episode to the fallout of him being relieved of his duties at Red Bull. Great rumor coming around here. Um, Renault is considering selling 20% of Alpine, which apparently is valued at $400 million.
What?
And Horner, despite this big payoff he's due from Red Bull, because apparently he was under contract till 2030, so they're kind of expecting some big payday for him, he still can't afford that. So the rumor is he's going to partner up with Bernie Ecclestone and buy 20% of Alpine, which would bring us together with Bernie, Horner, and Flavio. All
No, that's impossible. Uh, can they get Gunter to be on the
like,
team as well? What other personalities can you get in that room?
I mean, he's never hidden his ambition of wanting to have an ownership in a team, and I think he was driving hard at trying to get that at Red Bull, and they were never going to give it to him. So
$2 billion for Alpine, though, as a total
apparently
valuation?
so. Yeah, yeah. Look at you doing the
What?
maths quickly, or did you ask ChatGPT for that?
No, 5%. 5%. Five, 1/5 of, and then 400 times five. Two.
You're running out of fingers to count on now, Brian. Come on.
I had to
But
use the toesies.
but anyway, what do you make of that? Like complete throw it in the I was gonna say throw it in the bin. I'm not gonna say throw it in the garbage. Or trash. I'm gonna say throw it in the bin. Like
I'd
a
throw it in the
UK.
bin. I don't think that's real.
Yeah.
You?
No, I think maybe the spirit of the story. Would he like to invest in an F1 team and be a part owner in a team? Yeah, I can see massive credibility in that. The him and Bernie are going to buddy up to sink 400 million into Alpine of all teams.
We've been talking about Alpine being for sale for forever. That's why I just take this as a nothing burger. Because now it's like, who else can they link to Alpine? And so they're like, oh, Horner doesn't have a job. He kind of wanted to own a team. Horner's going to buy Alpine. Wait, he doesn't have that kind of money. Who's rich? Bernie Ecclestone. Like, come on.
Well, he just sold all those cars from his collection. I mean, let's put these pieces together on our murderboard, Brian.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if it could happen, but I mean, crazier things have happened. But no, I'm putting this at a nothing burger.
Okay, well, something that might not be a nothing burger. I've carefully curated this story for you, knowing how you are the tire
And I
guru
haven't
here
seen
at the
this.
dirty side.
So yeah.
Okay, so this is what I found, and I'm gonna say I'm #worried. Pirelli was being interviewed. With lots of focus on the teams about how they react to 2026 regulations, but people forget that Pirelli are on the hook to deliver tyres that will meet the regulations. The wheels are going to be a slightly different size, and so on and so forth. So next year's tyres will feature an all-new construction and new compounds. Extensive testing is in full swing. They recently did with Aston Martin and Sauber at Silverstone. However, Pelli? Who's Pelli? Pelli's the new tyre manufacturer coming in. Pirelli can't test its new tyres on 2026 spec cars yet. It has to rely on mule cars, which are modified 2025 cars that they've tried to adapt and simulate the 2026 characteristics. Pirelli admits that this is not truly representative of next year, and as such, developing the 2026 tyres is to some extent a leap into the unknown.
Oh god.
And here's the quote at the end. This means that it's a bit difficult for us to have a range of compounds that is perfectly centered across the performance of the new car. If the car is stressing the tyres more or less compared to what you expect, then of course there's a risk to go too aggressive or too conservative with the tyres because we haven't got a clear idea on what you're going to find in 2026 yet. Oh no.
I mean, how often do we talk about our desire to have Pirelli build compounds? And let's forget the wet, because that thing's never going to work in this current car. But of all the other tires, that they wear out in the right amount of time so that teams have to take tire strategy into mind. And we don't want to watch tires that last for the whole race. So it's like you stop whenever everyone else stops and it's no big deal. But we also don't want tires exploding. We don't want them just completely falling apart on the driver. We want them to age, but with maintain their integrity so that the driver has to box because his car's slow because the tires
maintain the integrity, but if you were really putting your wish list out there, have it that as they start to degrade towards the end of their life,
right.
it quickly falls off performance-wise.
Correct.
So you have a real jeopardy that if you decide to extend the stint,
and finding
there's some
that
real strategy there,
correct,
yeah.
finding that razor's edge of degrading performance in a tire has not worked yet. They're getting closer at some races. They bring the wrong compounds at some. Can the C6 just go away forever? The C0 was a mistake last year. We can go through this whole deal. My point is they keep working on it with the current car, and then we still aren't there. So now they're using a mule, a mocked up car, to try to figure out where this razor's edge is. This ain't going to work. Either the tires are going to last, they're going to put on a pair of softs and go the whole race, or they're going to end up having the hards just explode in 4 seconds, and there'll be nothing in between, and it's going to be a disaster. And all I can promise is Charles will still have this as his team radio.
Wait, what are these tires?
Sorry, it's a mistake.
Yeah. However, rather than that being the Ferrari team engineer saying, sorry, it's a mistake,
be
that will
Pirelli.
be a Pirelli representative.
Or Pelly. Pelly will be on the phone.
Or Pelly, yeah. So, yeah, I am a little nervous about
I am too.
everything around 2026 at the moment. We haven't really done a deep dive into the new regs yet. We probably should before. Well, we probably will obviously before the new season starts. But you've got a brand new car with a brand new power unit, with brand new downforce and aerodynamics and brand new ways of activating it, and it won't be DRS as we know it. And now we're going to have brand new tires that we have no idea if they're going to work on the brand new car. I mean, what could possibly go wrong?
I don't know. Will the ejector seat button not work? I mean, what are we talking about here? All right. So with all of the rumors and all of the conversations from tires to Horner buying a team to the conversation on looking around a bit at who's going to drive for Cadillac, it kind of brings up the question overall, who's going to be on the grid next year? So we've had this silly season start off slowly but loudly. What I mean by that is is Max going to drive for Red Bull or not? Was he in Sardinia this week with Toto? And if so, what were they talking about? What were they working on? Is there a contract coming? Did Horner get fired because he lost Max? Did Horner get fired to keep Max? We went through that last week. All of this is, I think, that big first domino. And as we see what happens with this first domino, so many will come after it. And if listeners of the Dirty Side remember, beginning of this season or early last, we did an analysis on Carlos Sainz and the dominoes that fell after his seat moved around and he finally picked Williams, and what that meant for drivers, and actually why Valtteri's not on the grid this year because of some of those conversations. I think this is the same kind of domino situation. It's the stopper in the bottle, and once this happens, we'll see a lot more happen. But Rob, who are some of the drivers who run out of contract at the end of 25?
I did a bit of digging to try to find this because I actually wasn't quite sure who was where at the moment. So yeah, down the bottom in the contracted till the end of 2025 crew as Yuki, George Russell, Hadjar, Lawson, and Antonelli. Now, Doohan is on this list as well because technically he was under contract in 2025. It's just his 2025 has already come to an end, so Doohan probably isn't really in this conversation anymore. But that's a decent slug of drivers there. And interestingly, it's both the Mercedes drivers, which I hadn't actually realised. For some reason, I thought Kimi was on a longer one than that. I knew George was up for renewal, but
if Max goes to Mercedes, if he does, let's start there with a big if. Who does Mercedes partner with him?
Oh, 100% they choose Kimi.
I agree 100%.
They've already made all these noises when they were tempting him on board that he's the future. So what better way to partner him up with a mentor in the name of Max Verstappen? I hate that. Russell will have done absolutely nothing wrong and won't deserve it. But
just keep improving year over year, and then here's the door.
Yeah. So those are there. You've got them. Stroll and Sainz, Ocon, Hulkenberg, Hamilton, Gasly, Behrman, Bortoletto, Alonso, and Albon are all kind of the standard. We'll see them through to the end of next year. So you assume that they're all okay. And then you've got Norris, Verstappen, Piastri, and Leclerc all on longer ones. Some of them have the multi-year floated in there, but some of them, like Norris, have multi-year, but with at least 2027. So just call it 2027 then, if that's when you could get rid of him.
You go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so down that bottom end, you've got both the V-carb in there.
Correct.
You've got
and
Isaac
both
and Lawson, right?
Yep.
And both Mercedes. And then you've got Yuki as the second Red Buller. That's quite a selection of seats now because the V-carb's looking good.
It is.
If I'm the TP there, I'm signing Hadjar. I'm keeping
100%.
Jury's out on Lawson, so I'd say that second seat of V-carb's a little. Is it hot or is it just getting warm? I'm not quite sure.
Lawson's had a couple decent performances recently,
he has,
and it feels like he's kind of coming on. And he showed great talent last year. And the question is, Did he just need time to recover from getting Red Bulled out of there after 2 races and then landing at VCARB? I don't know. I mean, the question I really have, moving off them for a second, is Yuki.
Hmm.
Could you imagine a grid without Yuki in 26? I can't, but I think it may be a reality because, as you said, Williams with Albon and Sainz, they have their drivers in 26. Stake with Bortoletto and Hulkenberg have their drivers in 26. Haas with Ocon and Behrman have their drivers in 26. Aston Martin, Stroll, and Alonso have their drivers in 26. Hamilton's a 26 or Leclerc. Longer Ferrari set. McLaren set. So there's not like a lot of wild change going on except Mercedes and VCARB. And he was at VCARB already. So if I'm Yuki, do you go back to VCARB? Does Red Bull offer him that second seat in 26? I mean, this could be so wild. And the Max domino, if Max stays, I think it's a different conversation on the second seat. But if Max goes, now you have 2 seats at Red Bull that you have to fill.
Yeah. And one that we missed off here because I guess I couldn't find if it's definitely this year or not, is Colapinto, so the second Alpine seat. Colapinto, everyone assumes, I couldn't find it, was similar to the others, was just given a short term.
Yep.
Because that one's flying around that they're thinking of dropping Colapinto already and bringing Valtteri in until the end of the season. So we need to add the Alpine second seat in there as well. So who's not on here? Who's free that you're thinking? If there's no movement inside, I mean, do you see something crazy like, I don't know, if Max went to Mercedes and kicks George out, where does George go? Does George inherit a Red Bull seat, or he's not going to want to go? He's not going to want to go and have a second Alpine seat or a VCARB seat.
Right.
But if it's no seat, then I think you take any seat over no seat, don't you?
You think so? Especially a multi-year contract where you have an option to maybe get out of it. You don't go for a year, I don't think, especially to a new reg team. Man, that's wild that George could be out of a seat. And interestingly, over the last year, especially at the end of last year, do you remember the drivers' dinner and George and Max had all these dust-ups on the track? And this year, Max runs into George. And the 2 guys in the paddock who don't like each other the most, apparently, at this point, could Max go take George's seat? Just turn that boiler up to 11 in terms of how much they don't like each other? And if that happens, like you say, does George take a VCARB seat for a year or 2? I don't know. I mean,
so here's one for you. Here's the other side of this coin. I could quite easily make an argument for nothing changes.
Agreed.
Nothing changes.
Max stays.
10 existing teams, right? Max stays where he is. They see enough that Yuki has kind of matched what all the predecessors did in that second car and just write it off.
Yeah. What else are you going to find with someone else?
What else? Yeah. What else are you going to find? Right. So just take both of those 2, keep the experience of Yuki going in to see what he can do with the new car. Therefore, Max doesn't move, so Merc keep George, and there's no reason to bin Kimi, so they both get signed to new contracts, right? VCARB look at what they've got and said, Lawson's been all over the map with his emotions, probably getting the Red Bull seat, then being demoted again, and like you say, put in decent performances now. Isaac looks like a great talent, so you wouldn't get rid of him. So then you're looking at all of this and thinking, actually, the only one on all of this is, do Alpine keep Colapinto in the second seat?
Right.
And if they say yes to that, nothing changes. The only way the grid changes is because Cadillac roll up next year.
Exactly. And 100%. And I think the conversation about Colapinto is, if he doesn't have a seat, is he still kind of the reserve driver at Williams, the way they brought him in and, paid him to be around? Because clearly they're not getting rid of Albon or Sainz. And so is there like this smaller roulette of second seat backmarker teams where maybe Lawson is being evaluated, maybe it's Doohan and Colapinto being evaluated in that second seat. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's the Alpine and the VCARB second seats that are kind of because I would actually make a phone call. I don't know to whom, but I'd make a phone call about Isaac being not given a seat next year. That would be ridiculous. It would be like Spa not being on the calendar every year. Oops, did I preview a little bit of the Spa preview? I can't believe someone would let that happen. So, yeah.
Oh, I mean, in a completely boring, lack of imagination, content creating downward spiral, you would just say it's going to stay the same. It's just going to stay as it is. It's going to be the unsilliest season ever because it's just going to stay the same. And my gut instinct tells me that's what it's going to be.
I see.
With a little asterisk against the Colapinto seat. That's the only thing I.
So
kind
you're
of see up in the air.
thinking if you had $5 to bet, you would bet $5 that says it's pretty status quo going into 26.
19 out of 20 remain the same. What would be my $5.
I'm going to go on the other side, not even just for the sake of argument. I believe that Sardinia was a real thing. I don't think Toto and Max vacationed together. I think they got there for some reason, and if Toto's interested in getting Max, I don't see why he doesn't spend everything they have to get him there. I think Toto's all in. I just don't think he flirts for no reason. Now, will Max accept the rose? Will he be on the next season of The Bachelor with Toto? I don't know. But in my mind, I think the answer is yes. I think there's too much chaos right now at Red Bull. I think Max just wants to drive. I think he looks at a team that he's hated, that he's gone up against and said, these are my enemies, but they're always so good. And they've made some mistakes with the zero pods and the no side pod situation, but they built back up, and here they are. And Toto can be a pretty convincing guy, I'm willing to bet. So if I'm Max, stability, consistency, quality. He's like, I can prove myself. I'm a 4-time world champion. I can win my 5th at Mercedes, and then no one can say anything about me. I went to a separate team and won. I'm not a newie guy anymore. I'm winning over here. I don't know. I think he's moving. I'd say if I had $5, Max moves to Mercedes.
Then if you say that, then you can't just leave it hanging. I'm going to make you follow through.
George is out. They signed Kimi. No, hold on. He's out at Mercedes. Okay. They signed Kimi. And then there is the world's most ridiculous public flirting between George and Red Bull. And I think he goes there. I think Red Bull would love to sign George. He's a talent. We all know that. So, and what else are you going to do?
You see, you just see a Max George exchange, and then everything else stays the same.
I don't know about Yuki Lawson Colapinto doing. So I agree with you. There could be some movement.
I know about doing.
Yeah. Well, you never know. He could come back. You don't think so?
Your $5 is getting ever more in jeopardy, I think, as you start layering those things on.
I do. I think it'll be a George Max flip, and then after that, I'm predicting kind of the same stuff you are. Just watch the second seat at Alpine.
Okay, well, on that bombshell, I think it's time to open up the video vault.
Let's do it. Oh man, there was one amazing video this week. Just epically good. Rob, do you want to tell everyone about what that video was?
Yeah, I mean, I went down a little rabbit hole on YouTube, and I ended up at this channel called The Dirty Side of the Track. And they've just dropped a new trailer for their movie, Full Send, a Dirty Side movie, just under 2 minutes long. I really hope this gets picked up and made into a proper movie. I mean, the voice acting was just on point. Brian's overtake of the safety car, pit lane Paul's dismay, everything. I mean, what's not to love about this video, right?
And while you're there, subscribe. Yeah, great work by Rob. He put together that video. He is talented, which is surprising when you hear him talk. Okay, and then there were a couple other videos in there. One, how much do Esteban Ocon and Ollie Behrman know It Takes Two on the Formula One channel? 13 minutes. I love these. I love these kind of quiz. I almost called it a show. These quiz show events, whatever they are, 10, 15 minutes of interviewing two drivers. For some reason, I always get wrapped up in how competitive they are, which should not be a surprise considering they're the most talented and aggressive drivers on the planet. Somehow it always gets me. But the cheating is what I love a lot as well. It's like if you're not cheating, you're not trying. And they're just having fun. It's just questions, so who cares? But the editors of this one decided that the cheating had gone too far, not just here at Alpine, at Haas, but overall. So they kind of took out the stamp at the end. So when you watch it stay to the end, it was good. And then, yes, I go down rabbit holes. The F1 TV 2025 opening titles, but with Hans Zimmer's F1 movie soundtrack on the Akash Ladkani page. 2 minutes. Yeah, I've looked. It was. I was hoping it'd be great because again, I watched a lot of clips of the F1 movie on YouTube out there. This was okay, not as good as I was hoping it'd be, and it wasn't Akash's job. There was the theme music from the F1 movie didn't really work as well with the title. But then, yes, I kept going, and I may have found a Max Verstappen times the F1 theme on a wedding piano version. Max Verstappen. And like with the F1 theme on a wedding piano. I don't even know what a
Oh
wedding
gosh.
piano is, different than a regular piano, but I found it and I'm like, Brian, send help. Stop right now. Light up the flare. You need some assistance. So I stopped at that point, and I'm not putting the link to that because it was hot garbage. Um,
Oh
anyway,
well, you doing all the good work so that we don't have to watch the hot garbage, right?
that's true. So let's close the vault and leave the hot garbage going in there and move on to the casino games, which I really enjoy. And a lot of listeners have told us they enjoy too because they kind of think through it with us and what would they
Yeah,
do in
and then
these
it gives you
scenarios.
something to play along when you're watching the race unfold. It's like, oh, is anybody on for a winning hand here? So, again, just a quick re-explanation to either new listeners or existing ones that have forgotten how it works. We have 3 casino-inspired games that we play each race weekend: roulette, blackjack, and 3-card poker. Roulette, we have the very high-tech roulette wheel that we will spin to give us a number. That number dictates a finishing position for the race, and we then both have to guess which driver will finish in said position. Blackjack, just like you do in blackjack at the casino, you have to hit 21. So we both pick 2 drivers each and add together the points they score in the Grand Prix and see who gets closest to 21 without going bust. And then last but not least, 3-card poker. We each pick 3 drivers, which we hope will create us a hand. In other words, 3 drivers that will finish the race next to each other. If they finish next to each other, but we get the wrong order, that's still considered a hand. But if we get combinations of drivers that finish in the right order, that gives us a straight, and we basically compare our hands to each other's and see who wins that round. All those points get added up into the overall Rob versus Brian, and away we go. So just as a little reminder before we pick them, right now, Brian has the upper hand on me in the casino games. It
Yeah.
is 14-12 to Brian at the moment.
And I had
He's
a bad
won.
week like 1 or 2 races ago. You swept me, so
I needed that one to catch you up. So we've had, from a roulette perspective, Brian's never nailed the roulette table. I've done it 3 times, but Brian's hit blackjack a better total than me, 6-4. The slot machines that we don't do anymore because that was all around Jack Doohan, and unfortunately he's not there, so that kind of game's gone. We both hit 1 each. 3-card poker is really where the difference is. Brian leads me 6-4 there as well, so my roulette clawed a little bit back. And we also did bingo, which was ridiculously difficult to judge. So we binned it after a couple of rounds of that, but we tied 2-2 in that. So
that was hard to
overall,
judge. Yeah.
14-12. That was hard. So anyway, without further ado, let's do our Spa prediction. So are you ready to fire up our highly sophisticated roulette table?
It is spinning. It is spinning. It is spinning. Oh, 8. Who will finish?
8.
Eighth.
Who's going to finish 8th? Whose turn? I can't even remember whose turn it is.
You go first. That's fine.
Okay, thank you, sir. Right, 8th at Spa. Oh, I mean, I'm still high on Hulkenberg Magic, so maybe I should go for him. But who's normally in and around 8th? It's Kim is always a good shout. They never really do fantastically, Mercedes, unless they cheat and cut weight.
We'll get to that too.
We'll get to that. Oh no, do you know what? I am gonna go for the gas man.
What?
I know.
Seriously?
I know.
That's your pick?
It's a random one. Yeah. Random one.
And you got to be right on 8 to win.
Right on 8. You gotta be
All
right
so
on 8.
you've
That's why
lost. Let's see if I can win. That was
wait.
terrible pick.
Gasly was 6th in Silverstone. Let's just remember this.
Mm-hmm. I remember celebrating him. Okay, so it's a high-speed track. I kind of want to go Albano because I feel like the Williams has had a dip, and they've been focused on just not having engines explode. So assuming they fixed that, I kind of want to go Isaac because he's always right at the back of the top-tier teams, or had been, and then had a little fall-off. Is the Racing Bulls fast enough, though? I think it is. I'm talking myself into it. I think it is. Isaac.
Okay, good. I was worrying that some people might have popped out and watched the entire F1 movie before you finished making your pick then. But
Funny. What's next?
Blackjack, and you're up first. So which 2 drivers are you going to pair together to try and hit 21?
I will once again go with a team. I'm going with Ferrari. Charles and Lewis. Lewis and Charles.
Okay, I'm going to then, to try to counter that, go for my tried and trusted, someone who I think is going to get a decent slugger points without going bust, and then pick someone who's hopefully just going to creep in at the bottom. So I'm going to go George. Got to make up for his weight thing last time. George and Alonso. Let's pair those two bad boys together. Look at those
Mercedes power units here. All right.
Look at that. Right, 3-card poker. So me first. Now I could take the easy way out of here. And
take the easy way out because that's what I'm doing next race.
Go for the Max, Oscar, Lando, but I hate betting against Max because then it always bites me in the ass. But it hasn't been as competitive recently.
It's true.
Okay, so I can't bet against. I think Lando is just on a bit of a surge, and he's fighting back against Oscar. So I'll say Lando, Oscar. I'm going to put George in there. If I backed him for my blackjack points, then I'm backing him to be up there.
All in on Georg Russell. I hope. I never cheer against the driver doing well. I hope he has a DNS, does not start even. Just for you, just for that race, just for you.
What's your 3 then?
Well, you took what I was going to do at the top. Sauber has looked so good recently. I can't even put them at the bottom. Not so good. Sauber has looked okay recently, and I can't put them at the bottom. So I'm stuck with this idea of like top teams, kind of like the middle of the pack of the top teams. Because it really has, in a great way, become a crapshoot for the bottom half of the grid. You don't know who's going to finish where anymore. So I like that. That's good variability to watch. So I'm going to go with what I said. I'm going to go with the middle of the top teams. You took George. So I will go with... I'm going to go with Max. Oh, I got to get them in order. Hold on. Yeah. I'm going to go with Max, Charles, Lewis.
Oh, okay.
Max is going to have that really skinny wingback, like a skinny tie situation that he had at Silverstone. He's going to rock it.
Well, being as you wished me ill fortune, I'm just going to say that even though I'm a Ferrari fan, I hope that new rear suspension is junk and just falls apart in the first corner.
They're both sitting on the ground.
Right, okay, fire up the roulette machine because it's now the same, but for Hungary, the last race before we go to the summer break.
I'm not a huge fan of the Hungarian Grand Prix.
No, it's never been a good one.
Oh my God, another extreme, an extreme. I guess 8 wasn't an extreme. 20.
Oh,
it wants to know who's going to finish last.
Right.
Assuming we have a 20th finisher. Which is difficult in and of itself, right? Because...
No, I tell you what, we will go from the official F1 website and we will pick whoever is in the last slot. So if you're the first DNFer, if you're listed in the bottom of the classification as 20th, even if it's a DNF, I'll pick whoever's bottom of the list on the F1 website, okay? Deal?
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm first this time, right? Because you went first last time? 20th. Oh, do you bet on a DNF? No, you just got to go with... I'm taking Franco. I'm going to take Franco Colapinto.
That's who I was going to take. I was looking at first corner chaos.
Crash Pinto could be back. I mean, he did not look fast. I don't know. I feel bad for that, but sorry, Franco. Who would you even put? I mean, honestly, who else is Stroll? I don't even know, but he was 5th or 7th at Silverstone.
I know that, like you just said, there really is from about almost 12th to 20th. It's just
could be anybody.
It could be anybody. It's just like because it could
Colapinto.
be a DNF. I mean,
hold Colapinto out. I think we both would agree he's at the. I'm sorry, Franco, but I think we would say he's at the lower end of the second tier of that driver squad of the rest.
I so believe in your Colapinto pick that I'm just gonna go for the complete opposite of what my brain says I should do. And in the same way that Charles sold his soul to the devil in order to win Monaco, Hulk did the same thing so that he could get his podium. Therefore, right after his podium, he's going to go 0 to 0, and he's going to be out first. So I'm going for the Hulk in 20th.
That's a possibility. He could...
You get all excited, thinking there's another podium on the cards. He starts 19th, because I got this. I went 19th to 3rd in Silverstone. Overcooks it in the first corner, takes his front suspension off, Hulk out. Rob wins.
All right.
Right, Blackjack.
You're up
first this time,
yes,
right?
Yes, sir.
Oh, right. Hungary, is Hungary the one that we say is Monaco without walls?
Yeah.
There's just never any overtakes, are there? So they kind of start and they keep station. So
And the ones that are just basically DRS overtakes on the straight.
yeah. So I really liked the look of your pick. I'm going to take the Ferrari boys because I
No,
think
I
they'll
was gonna take them
qualify.
again.
I think they'll qualify kind of that middle of the upper tier and hold
Yep.
station, and that should be a decent points haul for blackjack.
All right, so I'm gonna do. I'm really on this picking a team for my blackjack team. So I'm gonna go Mercedes because I think
Ooh.
Kimi is. While yes, he podiumed for us in Canada. I think that was an anomaly, and so I think he'll still do fine. But I think George is going to be kind of at the right after the McLaren boys, and Kimi will be down kind of like at the lower end of the points. We'll see how it works out. Mercedes
Okay.
for the Sap Man.
Okay, and now here we go. Your three-card poker selection. Are you just going in
Yeah, tried and true. I'm going Lando, Oscar, Max.
Lando, Oscar, Max? Okay. I'm I'm gonna go. I'm gonna take a visit to a rookie corner, and I'm gonna go Isaac Bort Lawson. There we go. There
Okay.
was zero reaction to that. Brian is not impressed by that
Well,
pick at all.
like we say, it's such a jumble. So Bortoletto in between. It's a Bortoletto sandwich with V-carb
Yes.
bread.
Yeah, you don't name the sandwich after the bread, as we all know on this here. Poker Little Pod.
Correct. Don't even get me started. Yeah, all right. I mean, I don't know. Like, fine. That's an interesting pick. Could be great. Could be terrible. I don't know. Good luck. At least I went with Max. I backed my guy. Max Verstappen.
We didn't back him that much. You only think he's going to come third.
Well, you had him on, somewhere off the podium at Spa.
Yeah. Fourth.
All right. So
Right,
fantasy.
okay. Yeah, I was
Quickly,
gonna say,
just
this is your-
addressing fantasy. There were some scoring corrections done 2 weeks after the race, which,
were there?
yeah, very small. But
Is that why you're all talking about it again? 'Cause
yeah.
it's like, why are you all talking about fantasy again? Like Silverstone was like 100 years ago.
well, 100 years ago, but they're making score corrections, and everyone was joking. What happened if they left us on calculating for 2 weeks? The world would have exploded. So there was. I don't even want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it because what I looked at, I found I'm now 30,000 in the world. 30,000 out. I know it's out of 2.4 million, but still, that ain't good. And a lot of the people were, in our league are like, "Oh, I'm 9,000," and I'm 30,000. It's horrible. And I'm 4,000 in the U.S. and in the Charles League, which was the driver I picked to be in the league. I'm in the Charles League, so I'm 4,000 in both. Could be so much better. The only upside is I haven't really used any of my powerful chips, so I'm kind of pulling a Rocky. I'm going in fighting offhand for the beginning, and then Mick's gonna hit the canvas, and I'm gonna start unleashing the beast.
Your only problem is that have you been playing fantasy algebra enough? Because if you've been playing fantasy algebra enough and you've got a big pity, then maybe you get to maximize those chips with a better team.
I do. I have been. I could tell you. I may have deleted it. I did know how much budget I had. I can't find it, but I do have a fairly decent budget going at this point. So I have been playing fantasy algebra at the expense of my weekly scores. But I guess we'll see. But anyway, yes, some small edits. 2 weeks after the fact. Again, we're done. I'm sad. Moving on to something else that I love, but also makes me sad.
Okay. So, Spa. Next week, we will be reviewing the Belgium Grand Prix, which will be 4.341 miles, which will go around a Lewis Hamilton number of times. 44 laps at Spa. Yeah. So it's like, longest circuit on the
Current
calendar, is it?
grid.
With shortest number of laps that we do.
Yeah,
Lowest
I'm
number
fairly
of laps
certain
we do,
that's
not
correct.
shortest laps. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I kind of
Of
made
the
that
current
up on the fly,
calendar.
but I think of the current calendar, yes. I love this. I love you. You need to go back and look at some of the old F1 circuits, whether it's Spa, which I'll talk about in a second, or go back and look at like Hockenheim or the Nürburgring or some of these because they were beasts. So the original triangle-shaped track was built in 1921, and it used a load of public roads between a number of different towns: Francorchamps, Malmedy, Stavelot. created a 9.25-mile circuit going in through the forests and the hills of the region.
So you can go watch the cars go around and just wait for the next set of cars, like the next lap. We'll be back.
What's the lap record here? 14 minutes.
Because they weren't as fast as the cars today either. They were the bathtubs.
Imagine being a spectator back in the day with no TV to be able to watch the rest of it. You're literally going to get... right, anybody want a pint? We're back in quarter of an hour, then we can get them coming round again.
Oh my God. You'll have no idea who's in first as they come back around. You'll be like watching and like, oh, I missed it. I was blinking.
It was then shortened to just a mere 8.7 miles in 1947, but they made it much faster. So obviously this cut it down to only being 10 minutes a lap now, and you couldn't get a pint in between laps. And then in 1979, they basically cut it in half, a 4.3-mile circuit. It was made much faster by removing chicanes, and it gave it the title of the fastest open road circuit in the world. It's pretty much stayed the same ever since. It's kind of some of its key features are the Eau Rouge, Radion, and Kemmel Straight, which is one of the most famous aspects. You start off, start line, hard right, which is almost like a right-hand turn that almost goes back on itself. It's not quite... I'm not sure it gets categorized as a hairpin, because for me, a hairpin is a 180 and you go back the way you came from. But
right.
I mean, it
is very tight.
It's very tight. But anyway, if you come out of there and catch it right and floor it, you can go flat out, downhill, over the Eau Rouge stream, up Radion, up to the Blind Summit, over the top to the Kemmel Straight, and if you've managed to nail it all the way through and keep your foot to the floor, you can be flat out for 1.25 miles.
Do you remember in the rain a few years ago, I want to say it was like 2019, maybe 19, 20, 21, somewhere in there, and it was raining. Oh, this was the farce year, wasn't it? So what was that, 21 when Spa was a joke? And George,
God,
I'm trying to remember the years right now.
No racing laps.
Right, but they said there were two, so they got half points, and George finished second because he had a great quali. Lando had a massive crash going up Eau Rouge Radion, and it was just horrible. I remember the car basically came apart in the rain, and Seb, I think it was in the Ferrari then, was the first one on the scene and pulled up next to him and was yelling into his radio about how ridiculous it was they were still racing, because that is a dangerous corner. That is... Again, not to tie it all together, but that's where Antoine Hubert passed in the F2 race at that corner. But you're right. It is a testament to the driver's fortitude, how they take that corner every time with full fuel to start the race to when they're even lighter and going even faster at the end. That's from La Source all the way through the Kemmel Straight is awesome to watch. I couldn't do it. Even in my road car, I'd be nervous.
Yeah, and it's crucial because setting that up out of La Source and nailing it all the way through is really where you set yourself up for great overtaking opportunities, either on the Kemmel Straight or at least down into the corner that I can't remember at the end of the Kemmel Straight where you hit the anchors and you get some opportunities there. There's not too many overtakes then for the rest of that part where it kind of is sweeping through the forest, but I think it's around the backside where we get a good couple of opportunities down there before we finally head back down to the bus stop chicane where people will sometimes just throw a Hail Mary up the inside and see what happens. But
I love it.
I love Spa. It's I think sometimes it's a little bit of a victim of its own legacy in that I think people sometimes come into it thinking this is going to be the best race in the world that I've ever seen, and then people come away going, that was all right, which is, I think, unfortunately just a victim of its own success. I love Spa. It looks great. It's a great driver's challenge. It's been around forever, and this is where Brian's little sad bit's going to come in. It started in 1924 hosting non-championship races. It was part of the inaugural season 75 years ago, and a certain Mr. Juan Manuel Fangio in his Alfa Romeo won it ahead of his Alfa teammate Nino Farina. So it's been there forever. It's an establishment, but over to Brian for the sad bit.
Right. So we talked about this for people who've been listening for a while. We've done... best tracks. It won the best track vote in our February F1 Fantasticness when we did tracks. The drivers enjoy driving there. They like it. The fans like it. Like Rob says, it may have built its own reputation at this point that it doesn't always live up to. No fault of its own, but everyone loves it. And all of a sudden the race is just good. And it's like, well, that's not good enough. And somehow, some way, and I made a phone call about this one too, and no one picked up. We said, keep it on the calendar. Keep it on the calendar. And F1 goes, you know what? I got an idea. We're going to keep it on the calendar, sort of. And they went into this rotational basis. So the contract ends this year in 25. They have a new contract through 2031. But here's the twist. We're there 4 of the 6 years. We're there in 26, 27, not 28. We're there in 29, not 30. And then we're there in 31. So there are 2 years in 2028 and 2030 when Spa will not be on the calendar. It'll be replaced by, one can only hope, something as majestic as Paul Ricard. And as we look at this now, what am I supposed to do in those years? Read a book? What do you want me to do? Learn something? Leave Spa on the calendar. I don't know what else I need to... Give me a number, someone to call. I'll call them right now, and I'll say, please put it back on.
Or you're busy ranting over there. Something to cheer you up a little bit. We get extra racing action there this year because 2025 is a sprint edition of Spa, making it the only European sprint on the calendar this year. I hadn't realized that. I knew we got like 5 or 6 sprints, but I hadn't really looked to see where they were. It last held a sprint in 2023. And I'm going to honestly say I don't remember that, but I'm sure it was amazing and better than free practice. So
100%. We all agree. We've all gotten to a point where it's like, 3 practices? No, thanks. Let's just do 1 in a sprint. And I'm like, all right, that works.
Yeah, exactly. 2024, if we look back at last year's race before we look ahead to next week's race, was in quali. We had Max, Charles, and Checo finished the top 3, but Max took a 10-place grid penalty for exceeding his engine units, which put Lewis up into the top 3. And it was kind of being hailed as a pretty decent strategy because they were like, yeah, Spa's a pretty good place for overtaking. And we've seen people go from back to front here before. So if you're going to take a 10-drop penalty anywhere, then maybe do it here. So we had George won, in inverted commas, the race on track and celebrated on the podium like a winner by doing a genius one-stop strategy, wearing his tyres down to paper-thin levels and just loving life on the podium alongside... What do we have? Lewis and Oscar. So we had a Mercedes 1-2 with Oscar in behind, and the world was great until it wasn't. Parc Ferme, they go along to. I can't remember. Had we recorded the pod early this day? I got this funny flashback that we may have started recording when we still thought George had won.
I think that's right.
Scramble like crazy as the news was breaking and we were getting pinged and it's like, what's going on? Yeah, George's car was found to be 1.5 kilos underweight, which just sent the internet into a frenzy. It's like, oh, that's close. Why does it matter? Because of rules.
Yeah, you need a cutoff point, and he was under it.
So they were looking at, was it the one stop that they hadn't figured on all the tire degradation? Did he not go and pick up enough marbles by running on the dirty side of the track? But then could he have anyway? Because Spa's got the unique little nuance where they don't do the full lap.
Right, that's my point. That's exactly right. So was his pickup less? Pickup being when the drivers drive around the in lap after the race, where they drive over the marbles, they collect the tires. But at Spa, you basically turn La Source and come right back into the backside of the pits because it's such a long lap. They don't have cars go all the way around, right? Am I thinking of this correct? Yeah, so no time for pickup, which would have been helpful for him because he's just coasting anyway. It's not like you're burning a ton of gas on a slightly longer lap. But wow, I remember this. I remember the the disqualification.
I remember being surprised I was thinking like 1.5 kilos. That's a lot. Could he really have picked that up? And then there was an image doing the rounds online of like, well, this is some rubber that somebody collected from like the side of the track. They got it back home as little trinkets of kind of marbles from the dirty side of the track. That's a really good podcast, by the way. And they kind of weighed it, and actually it weighs a lot more than you think. And if you do that 4 times, each tire picking up that amount of nick debris, then that could have made the difference. So George was stripped of his win. Lewis got bumped up for the win, which gave Oscar and Charles the rest of the podium. Not that Lewis got to celebrate the win or Charles got to celebrate the podium, because this was all done after the podium celebrations had finished. Max made it all the way back up to 4th, so Good shout on taking the engine penalty.
Yep.
So down the years, repeat winners at Spa, still out and away in the front, although could be tied this year. Michael Schumacher on 6, In second, we have Ayrton Senna and Lewis Hamilton. So after getting promoted up to that win last year, if he goes and wins it again or inherits a win, because George is underweight again, then he could tie Michael Schumacher. In fourth, we've got Jim Clark. Sorry, with four, we have Jim Clark and Kimi Raikkonen. With three, we've got Fangio, Damon Hill, Vettel, Verstappen, Ascari. With two, we've got Fittipaldi, Niki Lauda, and Alain Prost. So there's not really in multiple winners. Only two of them featuring from the current grid. It's only Max and Lewis that have won here on multiple occasions. From a constructor's perspective, Ferrari, because they've been around forever since the beginning, as they usually figure top of these leaderboards, 18
for the
wins
long-standing
for Ferrari.
tracks. Yep.
Yeah, 18 wins for Ferrari, 14 for McLaren, 8 for Lotus, 6 for Mercedes and Red Bull, 2. Oh no, I missed there. We got 4 for Williams, and then 2 for Benetton. So I think the smart money is on next week. McLaren adding to the 14 and making it 15.
I agree.
I want to say that I could see Lewis tying Michael and giving Ferrari their first Grand Prix win this year. That's what my heart wants. My head says it's more likely that Max would add to his 3 and move to 4. But the smart money's probably on one of the McLaren boys. The car's quick, and this is a fast circuit. So.
It is a fast circuit. And a couple years ago when they were kind of dialing in what became last year's good car and this year's great car, they looked frisky and showed up here and stunk. So it's one of those things where I think they want to prove as well. McLaren would love to have a great weekend here and make it 15. And I would love to see it as well. And I agree with you. You said something earlier that Lando seems to be on good form right now. I would 100% agree to that. Not that Oscar's not. It's just that Lando's hot. And it's kind of one of those things where, like, you know, in NBA Jam, he's on fire, you know, and you get a little extra power up. I feel like Lando's been on fire, and so I'm curious to see if he can continue it after this 3-week break. As we get back there.
That's a good point, actually. I was thinking, you know, we gave. You know, I'll be honest about this. We've given Lando some grief, and maybe we question whether he had the mental fortitude to kind of take Oscar on as he's supposed to be the favourite for the championship this year, but Oscar's just cool, calm, and collected, getting it done, and was starting to build a gap. And we said, look, can Lando bounce back from this? And it's been an emphatic yes. He's won. Is it 2 in a row now?
Yeah,
it's not 3 in a row, is it? It's 2 in a row, I think. 2 in a row. Close the gap back down again, putting all the pressure back on Oscar. But momentum's a big thing. And like you say, we've almost had a mini summer break.
Agreed.
Here, so
yeah.
Does it level the playing field and they go back in as equals again now? Or can Lando still kind of strut in there with I'm the big dog on campus. I got 2 wins back to back. Hold my beer.
I mean,
Oscar,
his home,
here I go.
It was his home race. He's going to still feel that high, even 3 weeks later off Silverstone. I mean, he's got to, right? So I don't know. I can't wait. That's why I'm so excited. It's a great track. It's beautiful. It's got history. It's got great corners, amazing straights. It's just a great place to race. We've got curiosity on who will win. We believe it will be a McLaren, but there's so many cars at the top. We've already talked about the midfield being a complete jumble, hold Colapinto. And so it's really kind of like shaping up to be an amazing weekend. I can't wait.
No, neither can I. I would just put one little call out to Mother Nature and say,
please no.
I'm all for a wet Spa. I think Spa is great in the rain, but can we just dial it back so that we don't get a monsoon?
Please,
we don't want blue tire weather where blue tires are not allowed to run.
Please don't do that to us.
A little bit of intermediate. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with a dry Spa, but yeah, that's
agreed. You know what else I'm looking forward to, Rob? Recording the post-Spa review with you in 1 week's time and having everybody here listen again with us to talk about what we saw at Spa. Anything else for you, my friend?
No, nothing. Let's look forward to race week, make the poster, get all giddy with our midweek predictions, and then record a show next week.
Can't wait. Everybody, thanks so much for listening once again. We really appreciate you. We can't wait to talk to you in 1 week's time.